If you clicked on this video, you've probably heard of some YouTuber guru talking about you investing in the S&P 500, and by the time you actually hit 50, you'll have become a millionaire, if not a billionaire like Warren Buffett, and you'll be able to enjoy the life you love when your bones are weary and your back is aching and the evening hours of your life are actually coming in. You can't enjoy with your kids at the beach, and the only thing you just have is millions seated on your bank account. In this video, I'm going to show you how investing in the S&P 500 may be actually not the best thing to actually do with your little money you have right now. Rather, investing in another index fund like S&ME 500 would be the best choice you would actually want to do right now. Well, if you're new here and we've not met before, hi, I'm Mario Seth, the founder at Space, which basically is a company that connects Shopify sellers with travelers who are already moving in the directions where the packages are moving. So shipments can actually be moved as fast as possible and at cheaper, affordable prices. So if you'd like to work with us, please go on glomspace.com and we'll be happy to do business with you. So let's get back into the video. Well, before we go to the S&P 500, let us first compare. If you had $1,000 today and you would like to actually save that money in order for you not to lose that money, which route would you actually take in order not to lose that money? The most intuitive path of saving this money for almost everyone would actually think about a savings account. But there is also a caveat with the savings accounts. Whereas savings accounts also have an interest rate, this interest rate is very tiny compared to the inflation rate that actually hits the economy every year. Traditional big banks always have a 0.01% on saving accounts, and high yield saving accounts usually have a 4 to 5% interest rate on these savings accounts. So considering a conservative rate of about 2% interest rate, that means that your money in 10 years would be actually $1,219. And though, whereas that money has actually increased in value by $219, that money will be still hit by the inflation rate, and you won't have the same money as far as purchasing value is actually concerned. The purchasing value of that money would actually be $907. So that means that saving that money does not actually make you money, but it actually makes you lose money. So now let us check another way to actually make that money grow. That is investing in the so-called S&P 500. Well, if you don't know about S&P 500 yet, S&P 500 is an index fund that tracks the top 500 companies in the US. That includes Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Apple, and so on and so forth. On an average, the S&P 500 grows by 10% every year. So that means that for 10 years, your money would actually grow to $2,593. But that money won't still have the same purchasing power. By then, the purchasing power of that money would actually be $1,529. And so that means that still, to some extent, we'll actually be losing some money, and a lot of money. So considering all these options, we actually see that your money actually decreases in value. So which index fund can you actually invest in so that your money cannot decrease in value? That brings me to the S&ME 500. So what is S&ME 500? S&ME 500 is a fancy way of just saying that invest in yourself. Now, before you actually scroll and you go to watch another video, just listen to this. What the S&ME 500 is and how much your money can actually grow if you decided to invest in yourself. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can actually invest in yourself, but I'm actually going to pick out one way and we are going to dwell on that and see how your money would actually grow in a period of 1 year, not even 10 years, 1 year. So how can you actually invest in yourself? So one of the ways you can actually invest in yourself is either by starting a business, or maybe hiring a coach or mentor, or maybe buying a course and learning a high-paying skill, or prioritizing your health. And so for this video, we're going to consider what would actually happen if you got some of that money and bought a course and learned a very high-end paying skill, like maybe video editing. What would actually happen? How much would you end up with by the end of 1 year? Now, for matters of clearing the smoke in the air, I don't have any course to sell you. This is just a YouTube video as I'm breaking down what would actually happen if you didn't invest in the S&P 500, but rather invested in yourself. Now, let us break down the budget of actually learning a high-end skill like video editing. So actually, to decrease the barrier to entry, we are going to decrease our budget to about $600, not 1,000 anymore. So if you went to Udemy today and wanted to buy a course like about how to master After Effects for video editing, you'd actually find almost all the courses at about $9.99. And so if we have $600 and we've subtracted $9.99, would stay with $590.01. Okay, so now that is off the way. We have a course what next? So of course you can't just buy a course, so we have to also buy the software. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, an average subscription fee of Adobe After Effects is about like 22.9 something US dollars per month. So 22.9 US dollars times 12 months, that gives you about 274.8 US dollars. So if you actually subtract 274.8 US dollars from the 590.01 US dollars, that actually gives us a balance of 315 US dollars. Okay, so now we are going on. So now that we have a balance of 315 US dollars, what next? So of course, after that, since you're dealing in video editing, you also have to buy assets and stock free music and whatever stuff. Considering a 16.5 something US dollars per month on maybe like a virtual or whatever subscription service you would actually want to use, if you multiply 16.5 US dollars times 12 months, that would actually give you 198 US dollars. So let's also subtract it from the 315 US dollars. So that would actually leave us with a balance of 117.21 US dollars. Okay, so what next? So for you to become a strategic video editor, you'd actually need to establish yourself online. And that brings me to another thing. You actually need a landing page. And designing a landing page today with this era of AI, you actually don't need any money to design a landing page. You design a simple landing page and put it on the web using Vercel free tier, and you won't pay any money. So that means that we still have 117.21 US dollars on our balance. The only expense you'd actually have to make as far as your landing page is concerned is to buy a domain name. So that brings me to another expense, that is 11.9 US dollars per year. You pay that to Namecheap or whatever domain name registrar you would actually want to use. So let us add 11 point something 0.9 US dollars on our budget. Yes, so that leaves us with a balance of 105.31 US dollars. So what next? The other expense, which I think is the only one that is actually remaining, is you actually have to establish yourself professionally, and that is buying a business email address. And usually that may actually cost you about like 8 US dollars per month if you actually maybe using Google Workspace to get that business email address, and $8 times 12 months, so that brings me to about $96 per year. And so let's add that to our budget and see how much it would actually be. Yes, you would actually stay with a balance of 9.31 US dollars on our $600 budget. Now that we've actually finished spending, so now where are the results? So I bet if you actually have a 9 to 5 and you don't have a lot of time during the day to actually invest in learning the course, well, you'd actually use maybe weekends and evenings. So I suppose it would actually take you, a conservative time would actually maybe like 6 months to fully master After Effects and become insanely good at editing. Well, but you can still take 3 months, I think, to become good. But let us take 6 months. So on the 6th month, if you actually only worked on one client per month for 150 US dollars per month for the next 6 months until the year ends, by the time the year ends, you'd have actually made $900 from that skill. And that is what the S&ME 500 actually means. Investing in yourself is way more better than actually investing in the S&P 500, where you'd actually have to wait for decades and like 50 years so for your money to actually have a very huge ROI. So if you enjoyed this video, I bet maybe you've actually gotten something from this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. I actually have a newsletter where I share some of these insights in my newsletter. If you don't mind, you can go on later.glonspace.com, link in the description, and please subscribe to my newsletter. I'll be happy to see you there. Thank you very much. See you soon. Peace.